Bruce McArthur was born on October 8, 1951, in Lindsay, Ontario, and raised on a farm in Argyll. In addition to raising McArthur and his sister, his parents fostered troubled children from Toronto, often with 6 to 10 in their care at any given time, and had a good reputation in the area according to a family friend. A young Bruce attended a one-room schoolhouse outside Woodville. A classmate recalled him trying to be the teacher's pet and informing him of mischief by other boys with whom he did not fit in. He was also known for winning singing contests. Bruce's mother was Irish Catholic and his father a Scottish Presbyterian. Both were devout, causing arguments in which McArthur supported his mother. This led to derision from his strict father, who McArthur later felt may have sensed his homosexuality. Bruce had trouble accepting his sexual orientation, which would have been seen as abnormal in rural Ontario at that time. Bruce was bused to nearby Fenelon Falls Secondary School for his secondary education, where he met and began dating Janice Campbell, both graduating in 1970. Bruce later graduated from a program in general business and married Janice when he was 23. His mother died of cancer in 1978, and his father died in 1981. In 1979, Bruce and his wife moved into a house on Ormond Drive in Oshawa. By 1981, they had a daughter, Melanie, and a son, Todd. In 1986, the McArthurs bought a home on Cartriff Avenue in Oshawa. He became very active in his church, keeping himself busy to avoid examining his homosexual feelings. Bruce began having sexual affairs with men in the early 1990s. More than a year later, he came out of the closet to his wife. They continued living together. Sometime after 1993, Bruce's employment in the clothing trade came to an end, and the couple faced financial difficulty, in part due to legal issues connected to their teenage son, Todd, who was obsessively making obscene phone calls to women he did not know. The couple mortgaged their home in 1997, in 1999. Bruce separated from his wife in 1997 and moved to Toronto, as there was no gay community in Oshawa at that time. He frequented the bars of Church and Wesley, Toronto's gay village, and moved into an apartment on Don Mills Road while pursuing a 4-year relationship with another man. When they broke up and his divorce was being finalized, Bruce saw a psychiatrist and was prescribed Prozac for several months. In 2001, Bruce McArthur met a male sex worker on a chat line and later had sex with him. Just after noon, on October 31st, a few weeks after his 50th birthday, Bruce was invited into the man's apartment to see his Halloween costume. McArthur struck the man several times from behind with an iron pipe that he often carried. The victim lost consciousness, then called 911 when he awoke and was taken to St. Michael's Hospital. He had suffered injuries to his head and body and needed several stitches on the back of his head and his fingers, as well as 6 weeks of physical therapy. McArthur, who turned himself in after the attack, said he did not remember the incident or why he might have done it. He pleaded guilty to charges of assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm, and on April 11, 2003, received a conditional sentence, 29 days, 2 years less than a day. A further charge of carrying a concealed weapon was withdrawn at the time. The Crown Attorney had earlier believed jail time was warranted, but agreed to a conditional sentence after psychiatric and pre-sentencing reports suggested McArthur was a low risk to reoffend. The victim, said by the Crown to have been traumatized by the incident, did not provide a victim impact statement for the sentencing, and there were concerns that McArthur's unexplained behavior may have been due to the combination of his anti-seizure medication with the amyl nitrite, a muscle relaxant, which is sometimes taken recreationally before sex. McArthur's 2003 banishment from church in Wellesley remained well known, and he had developed a reputation for BDSM and rough sex. In 2011, he told an acquaintance named Robert James about an incident in which he had been asked to leave a coffee house, which caused McArthur to knock all of the glasses off the counter in a rage. James decided to heed advice to stay away from McArthur, explaining that he heard disturbing stories about him. According to James, McArthur turned red and screamed hateful names at them, yelling, quote, "Everyone is telling stories about me," end quote, and, quote, "You're just like the rest of them, you think I'm crazy," end quote. A.J. Kahn, a Toronto restaurant owner, remembered McArthur as a friendly regular. Towards the end of 2013, Kahn inquired when McArthur came in alone instead of with his usual companion. McArthur said his boyfriend was on vacation, and when Kahn noted that he had seen the man the previous day, McArthur angrily left and never returned. McArthur had become a self-employed landscaper, operating under the name Artistic Designs. A colleague who installed water features on 3 of McArthur's projects described him as more of a gardener, operating out of a little van with old tools. He said McArthur was always accompanied by an older white man who appeared to be romantically involved with him and a day laborer. During the off-season, McArthur portrayed Santa Claus at the Agincourt Mall and made floral gifts for charities. On June 26, 2017, one day after attending Pride Toronto, Andrew Kinsman disappeared from Cabbagetown and was last seen in the area of his residence on Winchester Street. On the evening of June 28th, learning that no one had seen him in a couple of days, Ted Healy and other friends gained access to his apartment. They found no sign of disturbance, though his 17-year-old cat was out of food and water. They reported Kinsman's disappearance to police the following day. Kinsman, who was openly gay and had deep roots in the community, was regarded as a stable and responsible man whose friends felt would not suddenly leave, and certainly without his cat or his prescription medicine. It was also noted to be unlike Kinsman to go anywhere without notifying friends or family. Kinsman was active on social media, but investigators found his cell phone was turned off the day he disappeared. A composite of 11 missing persons notices this image of missing persons caused some to suspect the serial killer. At the end of July 2017, the TPS created a new task force, Project Prism, to investigate the disappearances of Kinsman and several other men from the area. Fears of a serial killer stalking church and Wellesley grew on November 29th when the body of Tess Ritchie was found by her mother in an alleyway 4 days after she was reported missing. The following day, police announced the body of Laura Wells, a homeless transgender woman, had been identified, her body having been discovered in a Rosedale ravine in August. Because of fears in the community, TPS Chief Mark Saunders held an unprecedented December 8th news conference on the 3 separate investigations into the deaths of Ritchie and Wells and the disappearances of Kinsman and Eason. Although the cases occurred in close proximity, police did not believe they were related, and Saunders said they had no evidence of a serial killer. The investigation picked up in January of 2018 when Insignia noted they had many 15-hour days and a 72-hour stretch of intensive investigation in mid-January. On January 17th, 2 pieces of evidence came to light directly connecting McArthur to the disappearances of Eason and of Kinsman. A partial download from McArthur's computer, which was going through forensic analysis of deleted files, yielded post-mortem photos of the victims that day. Round-the-clock surveillance was put on McArthur with instructions that he should be immediately arrested if observed alone with anyone. Police officers surveilling McArthur decided to apprehend him shortly after they saw him, a young man, enter his Thorncliffe apartment on January 18, 2018, believing the man's life was at risk. According to CP24, the officers had a search warrant for the apartment obtained after gaining blood evidence from McArthur's van. Police seized electronic devices from the apartment, including 5 cell phones, 5 computers, 3 digital cameras, and about a dozen USB flash drives. Evidence found in McArthur's apartment shortly after the arrest prompted investigators to charge McArthur with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the presumed deaths of Andrew Kinsman and Salim Eason. Their bodies had not been found, but police said that they had a pretty good idea of how they died. Idsinga was satisfied there was enough evidence for murder convictions without the bodies. On February 8, 2019, Justice McMahon sentenced McArthur to life imprisonment with no parole eligibility for 25 years. McMahon described the crimes as pure evil and stated that McArthur showed no evidence of remorse and would have continued killing had he not been caught. Despite this, he felt that the sentence should not be one of vengeance given McArthur's age and his guilty plea. McArthur could apply for parole when he was 91, but McMahon said that it would be highly unlikely he would be granted parole.